Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome to 90-Day Fiancé latest news. The heart monitor's faint pulsing in the dimly lit hospital room merged with the muffled conversation of the nurses and the sporadic squeak of a cart's wheels rolling down the corridor. Above, the faint buzz of fluorescent lights gave the white walls a sterly shine. The air smelled antiseptic, sharp and professional, mixed with the subtle floral perfume of the bouquet of daisies laying on the bedside table. A present from Emily's parents, who had departed an hour earlier after making sure she was comfortable. Emily Bieberly lay in the hospital bed, her body weighty with tiredness but her mind racing. The last several days had been a whirl of uncertainty, anxiety, and concern. It began with tiredness, nothing unusual for a mother of two small children, but then followed the constant nausea, dull discomfort in her right side, bloating that would not go away. At first, she dismissed it as stress, a bad diet, perhaps even dehydration. She had not been ready for the severe look on their face, the rapid advice for additional testing, and then finally the diagnosis. Fatty liver disease when she had finally gone to the doctor anticipating a lecture about eating better. Though the physicians had reassured her it was not fatal, it was a wake-up call. Untreated, it could aggravate and cause more serious liver problems. She had nodded, digesting the material, but all she could think about was her kids. Should something transpire to her, who would look after them? How had she let her health slide without seeing it? Now here she was, limited to a hospital bed, and 4 drip fastened to her arm, her body foreign to her. She groaned, fixating on the ceiling. She was meant to be at home playing with her children, cooking dinner, grumbling about the state of the house. Not lying here, under observation like a delicate glass doll. Beside her, Kobe Blaze sat bent forward in a plastic medical chair, his fingers firmly entwined such that his knuckles grew white, his elbows resting on his knees. Usually so full of vitality and activity, his big bulk seemed smaller today, burdened down by weariness and concern. His typically pleasant deep brown eyes were clouded with something she had hardly seen in him, fear. Emily turned to glance at him, just slightly. She could feel even in her state how much this was hurting him. He insisted he needed to be there in case something happened, having hardly left her side to relax. He would not go home. For the past 2 evenings he had slept in that uncomfortable chair. His body was rigid from the strange poses he had curled into. Her heart hurt when she saw him like way, so clearly unhappy. "Kobe," she said, her voice a little husky from lack of rest. He straightened right away at her voice, his eyes darting to her face. His demeanor softened, but the anxiety in his eyes persisted. "Emily, do you have any needs? Water first. Should I ask the nurse to phone?" His voice seemed eager, as though he was yearning to do anything to be of use. Weakly shaking her head, she gave him a little grin. "No, honey, I'm okay." She stopped to carefully examine him. "But you look more worried than I do." Kobe drew a long breath and ran a palm over his face. His fingers pounding non-stop against his knee, he reclined in his chair. "Emily, how might I not be?" Emotion, frustration, fear, guilt, all mixed together in his voice, was heavy. "Your wife is me, the mother of our offspring. Observing your likes," he trailed off, shaking his head. "I am breaking here." She gave him a weak but reassuring squeeze of his hand. "It's just a fatty liver issue," she remarked softly. "A little exercise, some medicine, and I will be back to my normal self in no time." Kobe shook his head and exhaled forcefully. "I ought to have seen anything sooner. Perhaps I ought to have urged us to go on more walks and eat better." Though it required work, Emily let out a gentle laugh. "Babe, stop yourself from blaming yourself. Remember? I am the one that enjoys late-night munchies." The door to the hospital room creased open before Kobe could react. A doctor entered, his white suit immaculate, a copy in hand. Middle-aged man with silver streaks in his hair, his eyes were gentle but businesslike. He looked up at them, then at Emily's chart. "Emily," he said, smiling reassuringly, "I have good news." Kobe straightened out right away, his hold on Emily's hand tightening. "Good news?" His voice was wary, as though he didn't dare to hope too soon. Nodding, the doctor was yes. "Your illness is not severe, hence with correct treatment you will heal fast." Kobe breathed, and his shoulders clearly relaxed for the first time in days. With a determined tone, "What do we need to do, Doc?" he asked. "I'll see to it she follows everything exactly." The doctor nodded favorably. Daily exercise, a balanced diet, and your prescribed medication. Then, after a little silence, he looked at Kobe. And most essential, lower your stress. That covers you, Mr. Blaze, as well. Emily tilted her gaze toward Kobe, a faint glitter in her weary eyes. Hee, sweetheart. Orders from doctors. Kobe shook his head and laughed a little, first in days. I guess I will have to listen, huh? A few days later, Emily and Kobe were outside the hospital entrance in golden light from the sunny day. After days of being limited to the hospital's sterile confines, the fresh air hit her face and rejuvenated. The sense of liberation and of going back to normal was nearly overpowering. Their children were here waiting for them. Their son let out an enthusiastic squeal as soon as he saw them, his small legs whirling as he ran toward them. Slightly younger, their daughter trailed with a determined wobble, her pudgy arms reaching out. Kobe hardly had time to respond when their son shot into his arms, encircling his father's neck with his small arms. Kobe raised him effortlessly, kissing his forehead to cause his heart to overflow with feeling. Emily knelt down to pick up their daughter, lips closing to her soft cheek, inhaling her infant scent. See, Emily said with a friendly tone. Mommy's okay. Kobe glanced at her, his eyes ablaze with fresh will. And now we start our healthy lifestyle path together. Emily gave a little chuckle. As long as I have not to give up ice cream totally. Kobe's smile was contagious. We'll work through. They looked at one another, a quiet pledge. Though it had affected them, this scare also presented an opportunity for improvement. Not only for their children but also for themselves, a chance to live better, be stronger. They strolled to their car together as a family, while the sun sank behind them and painted the heavens orange and pink. Though the future was unknown, one thing was certain. They would face it together, ready for whatever arrived next. This gossip is over. If you liked the video, then give your opinion in the comment box and stay with us by subscribing the channel. Thank you.